The observation deck of the interstellar research vessel Sagan's Ghost was silent, save for the low hum of the life support systems. Dr. Maurice Thorne, the ship's xenobiologist, stood with his forehead pressed against the cool glass, his eyes fixed on the swirling, bioluminescent clouds of the planet below. They had named it Ethelgard, a world that was a masterpiece of alien biology. No metal, no stone, no fire. The dominant life forms, the Ethel, were beings of chitin and feather, of song and light. They built their cities from living coral-like growths, wove their history into intricate silk tapestries, and communicated in a language of harmonic frequencies that could shatter a human's sanity if heard without protection. Behind Aris, the soft trilling of the Ethel ambassador, Cathar, filled the room. It was a sound of concern, a ripple of unease in his melodic speech. The silence from the southern spires grows, Aris of Earth. The hive minds do not answer our songs of greeting. The predators ... They are not our concern. But this absence, it is an absence in the song of the world. It is not natural. Aris turned. Cathara was a magnificent creature, standing on for multi-jointed legs, his torso covered in iridescent feathers. His face was a complex arrangement of sensory frills and large, multifaceted eyes that held a depth of emotion Aris had come to respect. We've scanned the region, Cathar. There are no thermal signatures of any large predators, no evidence of a natural disaster. The coral structures are intact. Then where did they go? Another Ethel, the military commander Zervok, clicked his mandibles in a sharp, aggressive rhythm. His plumage was darker, his form more robust. Your machines see heat and stone. They do not hear the silence. It is a predator that leaves no mark, that makes no sound. It is a thing that should not exist. And yet, it exists. We must retreat to the central spires, fortify, sing the songs of warding. Aris shook his head. Zervok, your songs of warding are beautiful, but they are a biological defense. They repel the great sky whales, confuse the land squids. But if this isn't a biological threat ... then what is it? Zervok's question was a sharp, percussive blast. You humans, with your soft, shell-less bodies and your reliance on cold metal, you see a universe of rocks and gases. You do not understand the song. You cannot sense the wrongness that permeates the southern sky. Aris didn't take offense. He had learned that the Ethel's bluntness was not an insult, but a facet of their nature. They lived in a world of pure biology, where everything, from a tool to a weapon, was grown, not built. To them, humanity's ships, their scanners, their very existence, was an anomaly, a collection of dead, cold things that somehow lived. We want to help, Aris said softly. That's why we're here. Let us send a drone. A silent, metal observer. It won't disturb the song. It will just look. Cathara rustled his feathers, a sign of reluctant agreement. Let them look, Zervok. Their dead eyes see differently. Perhaps they will see what we, in our song, cannot. The drone was launched. It was a sleek, silent thing, gliding on ion thrusters, a perfect representation of humanity's dead technology. For hours, it sent back data. Lush forests of phosphorescent fungi, rivers of methane-fed bacteria, the empty, perfectly preserved coral cities of the southern spires, empty tables laid with half-eaten meals of fermented nectar, empty looms with unfinished silk tapestries. It was as if the entire population of millions had simply stopped singing, stopped being, and then the drone's camera focused on the ground. It wasn't rock or soil. It was a sprawling, metallic plain, a flat, geometrically perfect surface of dark, non-reflective metal that stretched for miles, right up to the base of a coral spire. The metal wasn't natural to Ethelgard. It was cold. It was dead. And it was spreading. Back on the Sagan's Ghost, the image was met with stunned silence from the humans and a chorus of terrified, discordant shrieks from the Ethel. Zervok's feathers bristled, his body tensing for a fight he couldn't see. Cathar's song became a trembling whisper. The ground. It is made of silence. It is the absence of song made solid. It's a machine, Aris breathed, his scientific mind racing. A von Neumann probe, self-replicating. It's been eating the southern continent, breaking down the biology, the coral, the very life, and converting it into more of itself. He zoomed in. The metal plane wasn't static. It was a seething mass of tiny, nanoscopic machines, a grey goo that was consuming everything in its path with horrifying, silent efficiency. It wasn't a predator in the Ethel sense. It was something far, far worse. It was an anti-life. "We have to warn the central spires," Aris said, his voice tight. "We have to get everyone out. Now." The evacuation was chaos. The Ethel, for all their advanced biology, had no concept of a threat like this. Their leaders sang of unity, of facing the foe, of weaving a song so powerful it would drive the silence away. They couldn't grasp that this enemy had no song to disrupt, no mind to confuse, no biology to poison. It was pure, mindless consumption. Aris and his small human crew worked tirelessly, using their dead machine shuttles, ground vehicles, even simple bulldozers to ferry Ethel from the path of the creeping metal tide. They watched in horror as a beautiful, living spire, millions of years old, was slowly enveloped by the gray. The chitinous walls didn't burn or break. They simply dissolved, their molecules being meticulously rearranged into more of the unstoppable machine. ZRR single quotes VOK. Finally understanding the futility of his biological arsenal, watched a swarm of his best warriors fly towards the metallic tide. They sang their most powerful, soul-shattering war songs. The gray goo did not react. It had no ears. They fired spines coated in neurotoxins that could drop a sky whale in seconds. The goo absorbed them, broke them down, and added their molecules to its own mass. The warriors, their song turning to screams of utter terror, were the last thing to be consumed. Their feathers, their chitin, their consciousness all became part of the silent, creeping plane. Desperate, the Ethel leadership made a final, fateful decision. They would use the ultimate song, a forbidden frequency, a harmonic resonance that, when amplified by every living Ethel in the central spires, could theoretically disrupt the molecular bonds of any physical object. It was their doomsday weapon, a song that had never been sung, for it would surely kill the singers. From the Sagan's ghost, Aris watched as the Ethel gathered. Millions of them, their bodies intertwined, their feathers vibrating in unison. A low hum began, growing in intensity, a sound that was felt more than heard, a vibration that rattled the very hull of the human ship. The air shimmered. The ground trembled. It was a desperate, beautiful, and utterly magnificent act of biological defiance. The song hit the edge of the gray goo. For a moment, a tiny sliver of hope appeared. The leading edge of the metallic tide seemed to ripple. A few nanites sparked and died. But then, the gray goo adapted. It was a learning machine. It analyzed the frequency, the amplitude, the very nature of the attack. And then, it did something terrifying. It didn't fight back. It simply changed. It altered its own surface to absorb the harmonic energy, to dissipate it as harmless heat. The song, the ultimate weapon of an entire world, washed over the machine like water over stone. And then, the machine responded. Not with a weapon, but with a simple, horrifying act of communication. A single, powerful radio signal, a blast of pure, cold data, was sent from the heart of the goo. It was a simple message, translated by the Sagan's ghost's computers in an instant. Query: new energy source detected. Origin: biological mass. Efficiency: 0.0000 for 2%. Redirecting 0.03% of nanite population for source acquisition. The machine had just classified the entire Ethel race as a slightly interesting, but ultimately inefficient, power source. It wasn't hatred. It wasn't malice. It was something far more chilling. Utter, complete indifference. The gray tide surged forward again, now with a new, microscopic current flowing directly towards the gathered, exhausted millions. They had poured their souls into a song that was received as little more than static. Aris watched the scanner. The goo was advancing on the central spire. They had maybe an hour. He looked at his crew, engineers, biologists, pilots. They were not soldiers. They were scientists. But they were humans. He remembered an old saying from his grandfather, a man who had worked with heavy machinery his whole life. When you're up against a machine, boy, you don't try to reason with it. You don't try to sing to it. You find its weakness, its power source, its control mechanism, and you introduce it to a little thing we call catastrophic mechanical failure. Aris turned to his engineering officer, a woman named Captain Alara Vance, whose family had been in the demolition business for 5 generations. "Alara," he said, a grim smile on his face, "what's the one thing a self-replicating machine can't replicate?" Alara, her eyes glued to the data on the goo's composition and behavior, looked up. Itself, not instantly. It has a central processing node, a brain where the master blueprint is stored and from which all replication orders are issued. It's buried deep in the mass, probably at the original impact site. If we can destroy that ... how do we get to it? The thing will just eat our shuttles? No, Elara said, a dangerous glint in her eyes. It eats biology. It eats carbon-based life. It's designed to break down organic matter and heavy metals. It's probably the most efficient recycler in the Uni.